Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest CADS cast. I'm calling it a CADS cast now. We're doing things a little bit differently. There's no music, there's no intro stuff or anything like that. It's just us sitting here, having a chat, talking about Tottenham, talking about the end of the transfer window. We've all been sat here watching it as it goes on, fingers crossed, hoping that stuff is going to happen. But it's quiet tonight. It's very, very quiet. Not just at Tottenham, across the entire league. It seems to be not a lot is going on, but I'm joined tonight by A. Say hello, A.
Hi,
And we're going to be
how
sitting
are
here.
you
We're going
doing?
to be talking all things Tottenham. I'm good, mate. I'm good. We're going to be sitting here talking all things Tottenham. We're going to be talking about the transfers that have been made, what your general feeling is, and what do we think of course, the Newcastle game, which is the day after tomorrow. Oh, it's coming up quick. So, how you been doing?
Yeah, good. Good. I
Yeah?
think it's easy expecting a quiet window. You have no expectations, so
It would be
yeah.
nice to
But
have something. I'll be honest, something a little bit more because I'm kind of feeling we are one or two signings away from having a 10 out of 10 window. Because I think if we could just get that last thing over the line, that just two more, a left back, a left centre back, get that all done, and suddenly it's a whole different ball game. Um,
well, deep down, you're always hoping for that Van der Vaart moment again. Um,
um,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
something. A
I think Van der Vaart spoilt
defensive
us. I think
equivalent.
that's the issue. We were spoilt by these things when they happen. So, it's a case of we're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. I was reading something interesting about Van der Vaart earlier this week, and basically, it was saying Harry Redknapp did not want Van der Vaart because Van der Vaart was a data-led signing, and basically Harry Redknapp was like, I don't want to get involved in all this data-led rubbish. Either I'm interested in the player, or they're not part of my team. And that's very different to the way I remember things being at the time. At the time, I was like, Harry. The story that came out was Harry was saying the end of the window was coming, and Daniel comes up to me and says, "I think we may be able to get Van der Vaart." He was like, "Excellent, go for it," and they got him. And that seemed like a much better story than we got a player I didn't want and he was forced on me. Yeah.
I never heard that before, and that's surprising. Well, firstly, I didn't know we were doing data-led signings at the time,
No,
but
me neither. Well,
also.
the
He
other
kind
thing I
of
learnt at
looks
the
like a
same
Harry
time,
player, isn't he?
he does look
Van
like
der
a
Vaart
Harry
was
player,
a Harry
doesn't he?
player.
The
Yeah,
other interesting
that
thing is the data analyst who actually recommended him was Michael Edwards. Do you know who Michael Edwards is?
no. Is he a triple jump?
No, no, there's different Michael Edwards. He was Liverpool's chief executive or head of signings and stuff like that. He's the one who brought in Salah and Mane and basically completely turned
Oh
around
wow.
Liverpool thing. So the the
We've got some
story goes
history
on
there
to
though,
say, sorry,
because you think about it, it's Edwards and Komoli that we share,
yeah,
because Daniel
exactly, yeah,
Komoli also went there. Yeah.
yeah. So the story goes on to say that because of this data-led stuff, Redknapp and his cohorts basically made Michael Edwards' life a bit of a shit life while he was still at Spurs. So he left and ended up going elsewhere, which is why he ended up at Liverpool and not staying at Spurs, where we could have really done with his expertise. Because now it's all data-led all the time. But yeah,
I guess he had the
so
last laugh. He's
yeah,
outlasted Harry.
oh, absolutely, he did. He did pretty well, didn't he? What do you
Oh.
think of the signings we have made this summer? Let's include Lucas Bergval into that. How do you feel about it all?
It feels like a squad refresh. Um, Everybody's come in is quite young and enthusiastic and moldable.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to hear Anne say that he's been back. I saw that in the Ali Gold interview today. That
Yeah,
he's been back. He's got almost everything that he's wanted, and that's positive. I don't know if it's a club line or he's towing the line or he means it, but there's some good players in there. Uh, Solanke is a good fit for us. Bergwall and Gray look absolutely phenomenal. The only one, yeah, it's like Timo Werner is the one that like surprises me, but you know because I don't see him getting in the team so easily. I really like the
Yeah,
Odegaard
it's a bit
signing.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think the Timo
I,
Werner
I,
thing
I
was
thought,
an opportunity. It was an opportunity to bring in a guy who we knew, or the manager knew and trusted. Obviously, he played a fair number of times last season. Bring him in, and he will cover a range of positions. He can play left wing, he can play right wing, he can play as a centre forward. And we were pretty weak in almost all of those areas at the time. Um, but since then, of course, we brought in another centre forward who got injured. We brought in another player that can play left wing and right wing, and Mikey Moore in pre-season has just shone and looked incredible. And he really looks like he may be stepping up this year to the point that you go, well, actually, I'd kind of prefer to see Mikey Moore being given a chance instead of Timo Werner. Oh, yeah, that
yeah,
might be a big
exactly.
call though.
Yeah, but
I was
look,
watching
we're
the
going into tomorrow's game with no central striker again, right? So
yeah.
Richarlison pulled up and Solanke is still out. So you know maybe uh, yeah, we'll have some minutes from him that where if he wasn't there, we would have probably had a hole. So you know, there's that. But I think hearing you speak now, we talk about the new squad, new players in the squad. Um, the big thing is that we have options everywhere, um,
Yeah.
except six and left back or a cover for left back and left center back. But with Lo Celso going to Betis, it looks like we've got an option on the American lad, Johnny Cardoso, and he's a
Hmm.
six. So, you know, it
He
looks
is.
like they're making plans for that. Yeah, I don't know what sort of six he is. I can't say I've seen him much, but you know,
I'll
that's
be
him.
honest, never heard of him until about 2 hours ago. So,
Yeah,
he didn't feature on my radar. I'm not as. There was a period where I was actually getting paid to watch and talk about football. Um, People may have seen some of the videos I was involved in. Some of them went quite big. But nowadays it's all just fun and enjoyment for me, and with 3 young children I do not have the time that I used to have to watch the Bundesliga and Serie A and La Liga. So it's Premier League and Tottenham only for me nowadays. It's much easier that way. So I'll be honest, never heard of the guy. He absolutely did not show on my radar at all. I was hoping that we'd probably go for someone like Andre Trindade, who I believe is Fluminense, um, who just looks like another Bissouma type player, and I'm a huge fan of Bissouma. I have to say, I think he's a great player. There are issues with consistency and the occasional behavioural thing, but overall, I think he's a fantastic player. But equally, I'm a massive proponent of Bentancur, who has problems with consistency and the occasion. There's a pattern. There's a pattern forming here. I like players that are inconsistent and do stupid things sometimes.
yeah.
What's going?
So
I have an issue. I have a problem.
I
Clearly.
really like
So
Bentancur as a player.
yeah.
And Basuma, I agree with you. When he's on, he's fantastic. There's no doubt the talent is there. It's just
Hmm.
everything else that goes with him recently hasn't, you know, inspired confidence. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. The thing that bothers me with that signing is the only reference I have is Lo Celso was their star player, and then you know he hasn't done anything great for us. And I think that's the only hesitation. I think it's a bit unfair on the lad. I've never seen him play, but
Yeah.
apparently he's one of their star players. So he's young, and you know,
I,
let's see. Hopefully, it turns out to be a
I've
good
had some
one.
time. I've had some time to look at the stats and do the obligatory YouTube crawl. His stats look okay. Decent tackling, decent interceptions, all of that stuff looks good. Passing, not so much. Not particularly high in any particular passing stats. The videos are all general YouTube videos. There's great stuff that looks great. He looks fantastic, but then so did Gregor Radziak before we signed him. You know, there was one particularly good one I saw, which was the last 25 actions where he'd been put under pressure and the way he dealt with pressure situations, and he looked like a player who could turn and and also pick out some nice angles, which I like to see. But
Yeah, well, that's
we've
what I was
got
interested
Bissouma.
in
Yeah.
because when I look at his stats, I also had a look at his stats, and he seemed from the stats, it just looks like a destroyer without having seen him play. Lots
Mm.
of tackles, lots of interceptions, a lot of ground covered. But I think what we want in the six is somebody to pick the ball up under pressure from the defensive line and then transition. And yeah, that to me remains to be seen. But what you've said is encouraging. Hopefully he can do that. He doesn't have to do much. He
Yeah,
just has to cover the
the thing
press
I've
and
liked
move the
from
ball.
Bissouma, the thing I've liked from Bissouma is his ability to turn and break lines. Just take two or three players out of the game just with a quick little burst. And we've seen Bentancur do something similar. I have zero knowledge on whether Cardoso can do that. It's just not something that I could possibly talk about. I will let other experts and people who actually know what they're talking about do that. I'm here talking as a fan and giving my general thoughts on what I think is going on, and I'm not going to try and pretend to be anything else. But yeah, potentially the concern is that we've got Bissouma, we've got Bentancur, both of whom can play as a six. Gray can play as a six. Are we setting up a bit of a roadblock here for Gray? Are we going to be saying, right, we're going to be playing him as an 8 instead? We're going to be I mean, he's not going to be a right back, is he? I'm sure he's great at right back, but that boy's a midfielder if I've ever seen a midfielder.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends what they envisage him doing later on in his career because it could be six, it could be an eight. It's pretty crowded if you just look at the options there. We ask
Yeah.
Kulusevski to play there. We have Bentancur to play there. We have Sarr to play there. Bergwall looked very
Bergval,
well,
Divine.
divine.
Yeah.
So
We've
yeah.
got some numbers. We have options, which is nice because there have been long periods of time where it's like, oh, we could have Højbjerg or we could have Skip. Now, I love Skippy. I thought Skippy was great. His endeavour, his attitude, I thought it was fantastic. Højbjerg, not so much. He just kind of annoyed me. There were times over the last few seasons where I've been like, what does this guy add to the team? Certainly when he started, I thought he was just a complete liability. When he started a game, he was a nightmare to watch, a nightmare to try and follow at all. But if
Yeah, he did
he
some good
came on as a
stuff, and then
substitute,
like an absolute howler. That's what would
yeah,
get me.
there was
Lose the
one
ball
every
and
game. If he started,
yeah.
one howler every game, and you're like, what on earth is he going to do now? But if he came on as a substitute, he was excellent. He could come on and
Mhm.
be like, almost look like the best player on the field as a
Yeah, he
substitute
was
from
very close,
65
close
minutes
in
onwards.
contact.
It's like the game should have
Yeah,
started. You played 20 minutes and then bring Højbjerg on and just let him dominate from there. But never tried that, surprisingly. Yeah, but now we've got massively different range of players. We've got Bergval. I'm going to continue to call him Bergval. We've got Gray. We've got Bentancur. We've got Madison. We're now playing Kulusevski in the 8/10 role. We've got so many options there and less defensive, more forward thinking, which is definitely the way I think that Ange likes to play the game. So
yeah.
that
There's
works
something
out
to be
well.
said about that. I think like in the past when we needed to slow the game down, it was left to deeper line plays to try and slow the game down, and that has inherent danger if it doesn't work or you invite
Mm.
pressure onto you. Whereas I think the signings of Solanke and Odebert, especially, um, it's meant to try and get a handle on the game and to kill it, but further up the pitch, away from
Yeah.
danger. Bigger transitions are needed. Better players that can hold the ball up better where we need them to, in um, less threatening areas for us. So I think there's a definite shift there. So
I
we'll
think a
see.
lot of clubs look to have someone who holds the ball up. It's just where they hold it up on the pitch. So in the past, it's been like someone in midfield, or someone out wide, like Son. We'll let Son have the ball, and he will try and take the pressure off with a run or a little bit of trickery. And now we've got someone like Solanke who's come in and clearly is pretty strong and pretty big. You know, he's a good strapping 6 foot lad, um, and he's not bad on the ball. He's not
Yeah.
fantastic. He's not the best. I think he's not going to do a Berbatov type touch and turn and that kind of stuff. But how many people could? Um, but there was last season. There were not many players who lost the ball more often than Dominic Solanke. So his ability to hold it up, great, but he also has an ability to lose the ball at the same time. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see whether with better players around him that can be improved on. At the moment, it's
Yeah.
very much a watch it and see. I think he's got good skills, good ability, and we need to see how he's going to fit into this side properly.
If the last game was anything to go by, we're gonna probably start attacking very
Mm.
attackingly, and then have Saar in that role to come in with that energy when we really need it, to best utilize it. So yeah, perhaps there's a change. Look to hold the ball up a bit further up the pitch and still have that guy that eats up every blade of grass when needed. So let's see.
Yeah.
Hopefully things are moving in the better direction for us.
I think the one thing we saw from Solanke that really impressed me in the Leicester game was his willingness to close people down and really hustle and harry. We haven't seen that from anyone really since Kane, and that was a few years ago. Kane dropped off a little bit in terms. He would tend to drop back into midfield and do more of the shadow marking instead of the hustling and the harrying that he did when he was a bit younger. But Solanke against Leicester against Leicester certainly worked really, really hard, closed people down, and did a good job of hustling things along a bit.
And Richie
Potentially,
did the same
that's
when he
why.
came on.
Yeah, potentially that's why Sonny did a little bit more of it when it was against Everton, which led to that second goal. Second goal, yeah. So maybe we'll be seeing more of that in the future. I know it's supposedly a highlight of Ange's style of play. He likes to have people pressing and right from the front. So more of that, please. Thank you very, very much. That would be great. What are you
Yeah.
concerned about coming out of this transfer? Let's say there are no more transfers coming. What concerns you?
Two positions already.
Yeah.
Left back and goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper.
I don't think we have enough. Yeah, I don't think we have enough cover for Vicario. If Vicario gets injured, oh, and please don't let me find something to tie
Please
with.
don't. Please don't get injured. We need you.
But yeah, but Foster's out injured long term, and
Yeah.
we've got Brandon Austin, who's only played a handful of games at senior level and nothing in the Premier League. I don't think that would be a problem for us. I think, and then obviously Udogi, if he's not there, we don't have the profile. So Spence will have to be there, but he's not left-footed.
Yeah.
Or Davis, who's not the same. But so I think Davies, if he has Romero or Dragushin or Van der Ven next to him, can do a job
Hmm.
in 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 defense, but in central defense. But I think his days of fullback is over. He's getting on now.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a central defender for this season.
Um,
I think we're looking to keep him. He's last year a contract, I believe. So let's keep him for this season. He'll go on a free with our thanks next season, and we'll bring in Vuskovic and Ashley Phillips after another year of developing away at Stoke. Thank you, boys. Come on in. You could take over that job. And if we find someone in the meantime who's an outstanding left-footed centre back that's prepared to sit on the bench and be a backup, then okay, we'll bring them in January or next summer.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
But
I
it's
see.
really difficult. I think anybody that the majority of Spurs fans would be happy for them to come in probably isn't willing to come and sit on the bench.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
exactly. You look at Palace today; they've made a good signing in
yeah,
Lacroix, and he's a good defender, but he would want to be fourth choice anyway. So I'm sure Radu Dragushin is thinking about the same thing. Like, when is he going to play? Starts in the Euros, started in CAR.
Radu's going to get plenty of football. I mean, he'll play against Coventry. He'll get plenty of time on the pitch when we're
But
playing
we
in the
see
Europa
it's not
League.
only about playing; it's about playing in those big games. And
Yeah,
I think he
that's the
wants to
thing.
play
It's
in the
going to
Premier
be,
League. That's the thing.
do you feel like you're trusted by your manager to step up when the game's a big game and there's stuff on the line? That's what it
Yeah,
is. I
I think
mean,
maybe people underestimate just how good the partnership Romero and Van der Ven is. It's going to be hard to
mhm.
get through there. Um, so yeah, be interesting. Be interesting to see
I
what
think
happens.
the thing with Dragusin when he comes in, he's a lot more vocal. He comes in. My understanding is his English is better than Romero's anyway.
Yeah,
And Mickey seems like he seems like a lovely guy, but he seems quite quiet. He's not a big shouter. Whereas Radu Dragusin comes in, he's got very good English to start with, but he'll come in and he will shout and he will boss people around. And I think we saw when he came in that suddenly our set pieces got a lot better in terms of
yeah,
defending. He would be shouting people to where they should be and pushing people around. I think that boy's a potential captain for someone, whether it's Romania or us or some other club he goes to. He's got those leadership abilities, which is lovely to see because it's potentially one thing we lack in the squad. We've got a lot of nice guys, but a lot of quiet people as well. Son, for instance, Sonny is lovely. Sonny's a fantastic person, and I would want no one else being the figurehead for my club because I think he's just amazing. But he's a very quiet guy, and frankly, he's not going to put the fear of God into anybody, is he?
yeah. Look, I'm dreading it, but I think tradition will be first choice when Romero leaves. I don't know.
Yeah,
Next will be if he doesn't want to sign on with the way he wants to because he's won everything on the international level. So the only thing for him is to dominate in club level. With Real
mm-hmm.
Madrid sniffing around, I don't know if we'll hold on to Romero for very much longer. He just looks like a Sergio Ramos replacement. Hot-headed, can defend, can attack, can pass. And yeah, I won't be surprised if we lose Romero at the end of the year and then we have a partnership of Van der Ven and Dragushin, and then probably, as you said, we'd have two young centre backs come in, Vuskovic and
Yeah.
Phillips. So that could be our four going next year. And ooh, I still don't like those world class players, and Romero's world class player.
We're kind of a little bit used to it by now, though, aren't we? We've made a habit of losing world class players over the last 15 years. So it's kind of difficult to complain too much when it happens because there is, however much we dislike it, there is a pecking order in football. And we are not at the top table yet. I think we're slowly moving up. I think this deal with Cardoso shows that we're moving up the table because we're suddenly doing things that I don't ever remember us doing before. This thing where we're paying for a first option on a player and we get a percentage of the money if we don't end up signing him and somebody else does.
Yeah,
That
it's
to
like
me seems like the kind of deal
Brandon
that
Owen
yeah, Real Madrid do that kind of stuff. Clubs
with
in
Owen.
Spain and
Yeah,
Portugal, and they do that kind of stuff with players from Brazil. So I think it's interesting that we're starting to do that now because I've
they did
never
it to
seen. I
Liverpool.
can't.
They did it to Liverpool for Michael Owen. I think that was the first
Yeah,
time I heard of something like that.
of course, Liverpool got their own deal set up for next summer where they've got Mamadashvili coming in as goalkeeper next year, which is an interesting move because Allison is still young enough to be a force next season, and I'm not sure that the new guy will want to come in and be second best. But
I
not my
think maybe
problem, not
he's
my
given
club.
him indication that he wants to go somewhere because I
You
like
think?
their backup keeper as well, Keller. I think he's pretty good. Keller is awesome. Uh, I'm surprised that he's stuck around, but
They've been knocking back offers for him apparently. So there's been talk of
yeah,
him going to different
I'm
places.
not surprised. Not surprised with him here.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's been a quiet window. Did Liverpool get Chiesa?
They did get Chiesa, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And so many
interesting
people
player.
blowing their tops. So many
Yeah,
people
if
blowing
if
up
he's
about that. We should have got Chiesa. We should have got in there first. Apparently, we asked
yeah,
about him, but he wanted to go to a club that was playing in the Champions League and would pay him big money.
he's fantastic,
And
but he is injury prone. He's had some nasty injuries,
he's
and
so
if
injury
we could get
prone.
him fit this year, he'd be amazing.
He's played similar number of games to Neto over the last few years, and Neto's not been exactly a regular for Wolves because he's had his injury problems, which is why I wanted to stay away from him. You know, people have been
Yeah,
moaning at me as like, why do you think we shouldn't go for these players? And I was like, why should we buy problems? You know, we've had problems,
we
some
take
players with injury problems in the
bulletproof
past.
players and make them injury prone. Imagine if we get injury prone
Mm.
players, we'd never see them. So,
Right, this is the thing, right?
uh,
People complain that Daniel Levy doesn't show any ambition and things like that, and they want him to go for players like Chiesa, who, if you went and got Chiesa, first of all, he'd be costing you a decent chunk of money every single week. And secondly, he's not been the same player that we were watching, 4 years ago, before he had that big injury. He's not got that same level of consistency. He's been off. So why would we do that to ourselves? Because this guy might come in and be an absolute flop. And then people will complain, oh, typical Levy, spent money on a player who and brought him in for his big name, but he's been crap. It's one of those
yeah,
things that annoys me because Levy can't win. He's either spending money on the wrong players or he's not spending enough money.
yeah, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
player from Italy that I thought we was sniffing around and I would have liked to have seen was Locatelli actually. Um, that would be a nice competition for Basuma. That would be a
Yeah, that would
good
have been good.
competition.
That would
That
have
would have been
been
good.
that would
But
have been a good move. And apparently he is available. I mean, there is still an hour and a bit left of the transfer window. Maybe something's going to come up and shock us all. I'm not sure it's going to happen because
I don't think it's going to be for us. I think you're going to see Osimhen go to Chelsea and Tony go to Al Ahly.
right, the Tony one doesn't need to be done tonight. So that could go on for another 2 weeks and still go through because the Saudi window has got, I think it's the 19th of September, 17th, 19th, something like that of September. The Turkish window's open for another week. So, people are
Mm.
saying, oh, well, we don't need to sell Region tonight. We can wait until next time. We can send him off to it,
Well,
send him off to
we could
Turkey.
just wait and leave on a free and we pay his wages. So,
Yeah.
it's a tough one.
Or we put him in the squad and he is Destiny Udogi's backup for the season.
Yeah,
There are
as
worse players.
he could do a job.
He
Definitely
could do
could
a
do a
job,
job.
but he's very much a fullback. I feel he's not someone that could step
Yeah.
into midfield. So
No, he can't
unless we're
do
going to
that.
slightly change the way that we want our fullbacks to play, which I don't think Ange is going to do, he's not going to have that chance unless he spends a lot of time on the training field adapting to that new position, which I'm sure he can do
Well,
because technically he's good enough.
yeah, you will
He's
hope
got the technical
he was
skills.
doing that. Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what the horrible part is? For all Chelsea being a bit of a laughing stock and a shit show, at the end of this
Mm.
window, they could end up with Nkuku and Osimhen. And a few years ago, everybody would, salivating over the prospect of those two guys. And yeah,
Osimhen is a hell of a player.
yeah,
Osimhen is
it's
a
fantastic.
fantastic player. And Chelsea would do extremely well to get him, but his wages are going to be astronomical. You got to be talking,
Well,
what, 400 grand a week, something like that, to bring in someone like that. He's on, apparently his earnings at Napoli take up 50% of their wage budget. That's how much
you
they're
know,
paying him. So
and
I mean,
you know,
they can't wait for him to go. Their work, their transfer stuff is being held back because he hasn't gone yet. I mean, it's the reason why the Lukaku deal took so long to go through. I think they must have
yeah,
some kind of indication it's going to happen because the Lukaku deal finally happened. But he earns
yeah, and
so much
Gilmore is
money.
also gone. I think Al Ahly is only going to sign one of Tony and Osimhen. At the moment, it looks
Hmm.
like Tony and Chelsea will pick up whoever they don't take. That's what it looks like. So they'll be stronger anyway, which is a shame.
Tony's
Um,
probably the more sensible option. I mean, Osimhen is the
for
better
Chelsea,
player, but Tony is probably the more sensible option for Al Ahly because at a certain point, if you've got someone who's at 92%, let's say Tony is a 92% player, right? He's playing up against a 64% defenders in
yeah,
in the Saudi league
yeah,
because all the money in the Saudi league has been spent on forwards. There's no money, as far as I can remember, has been what defenders have been bought, what goalkeepers have been bought. They're going to come into that league and make a serious difference. I've seen games in the Saudi league and the level of defending was absolutely awful. So if you bring in Osimhen, he's going to score maybe a couple of goals more, but Tony's going to have a field day there. It's crazy. But Osimhen is a better player for the Premier League because he just brings so much more that level of quality. He could actually be that percentage difference could make a difference in a game.
yeah. And at the same time, even for the Premier League, like Tony's proven in the Premier League, so you don't
Yeah.
know how a new player is going to adapt. So
But he
I,
only
I don't
got,
know.
what, 4 goals last season? Despite he came back from his transfer ban, scored 4 goals, and then dipped off a fair bit. I think there
Yeah,
are reasons why he's going to Saudi Arabia and not going to a large Premier League club. His numbers from the season before were excellent, but reality, he doesn't pass the sniff test for me. I didn't want him at Spurs. If you gave me, I saw there was lists of players who Spurs have been linked with, and I just went, I don't think he's going to be someone that Ange is going to want at Spurs because Ange likes to have a conversation with people and work out whether or not they're really committed to wanting to join Spurs over other clubs. And he's talked about joining Arsenal. He's talked about joining Chelsea. He's talked about joining Liverpool. He talked about joining Manchester United. And when it came to Spurs, he was like, yeah, Spurs would do if those other clubs aren't interested in me.
mm.
So
Yeah. Sales
that's
never come
not what we're looking
with
for.
with possibility of Tony signing. I was never
Hmm.
quite comfortable with it. There's always that little nagging suspicion that it's not going to work out. So yeah, I'm quite happy with our business otherwise. Hopefully we have a team that's stronger, some of its
Yeah.
parts. And yeah, but it's a continuous slow build. And I think when you're doing a continuous slow build, you can't expect certain players to hang around. And yeah, that's my big fear with Romero. I think the rest of them will hang about. I don't think he will though.
So if we've had a reasonable window, who's had the best Premier League window that you can see?
Um, United's had a good window. I
Man
think,
U?
yeah, Man U's had a good window. They've addressed
Yeah.
defensive areas, midfield areas, forward areas. So I think they've had a decent window, yeah. But
They've been
nothing
hit with
else
that
springs.
They've been hit with that Man United luck, though, haven't they? The defensive guy they spent big money on came in and immediately got injured, out for a few months. So that's
Yeah,
never fun. Not a good start. I mean, Dominic Solanke played every single game for Bournemouth last year. Came to us, played one game, injured.
yeah, true.
But yeah,
You can never
No,
bet on the.
I think they've done well. Crystal Palace to me looked like a decent one. They've kept hold of Eze, or it seems like they've kept hold of Eze. Um, they've kept hold of Mark Gay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the other guy left, but
yeah.
they've
Elise
managed to bring in some
Henderson there.
decent players. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. At least they went,
decent players.
but
Mm.
he had a minimum fee release clause, so there was no, they couldn't stop him. And it got triggered early. I think Eze had a clause as well, but there was a time limit on it, and that's now passed. So yeah, but they brought in some good players. I think they've made sensible signings. As you said, they brought in Lacroix today. Um, who's the Japanese player that they brought in? I can't remember his name, but I think he looks like a really good player, and I think he'll get a few goals this year. So I think they've got a decent season ahead of them. There was talk of Jadon Sancho going to Crystal Palace, but I can't see that happening. Just
The
because of his
last I
wages alone.
saw that Sancho been made an offer by. So it's agreed with Chelsea with the player, but not with the clubs.
Mm.
So that's one to watch.
Because
Um,
Chelsea don't have enough players already.
yeah, it's going
I
to be
mean,
like 46 if they get Osimhen and Sancho.
well, Lukaku's gone. I believe Jorgensen's gone on loan as well. So I've been tracking their squad a little bit. I did a table of players earlier in the week, and I put that up on the forum. I don't know if you saw it. They were only
I
two
did.
players away. They're two moves away from, at the time anyway, they were two moves away from being able to put out a Premier League squad. Since then, they've actually signed more players than have left. So I'm like, I do not understand the way this is working with Chelsea. I don't understand their thinking. They've got too many players to fit in their squad. Chalobah might be going to was it Crystal Palace as well, which would be a
Yeah,
good move for him, a good move for them. Um, but again, that's another academy player who's decent Premier League player and would be on the homegrown list for Chelsea.
yeah,
So doesn't need to be in the initial 17. Who's
yeah.
leaving
I
the
think
club? It just makes life a little
is
bit more
also
difficult for them.
Broha is on the verge of going to Ipswich, so that's
He
another one.
was, but he's got an injury issue. I think I heard that fell through
It
because
was
of an
off.
injury problem.
Yeah, but it's back on as of like an hour ago or so.
Oh, really? Is he going on loan?
Something of the sort. Yeah. So
Yeah, because we were linked to a defender, left-sided defender from Dortmund, and apparently he failed his medical, or the medical test showed there was a chance of an issue likely to recur, and so we've pulled out. But he's gone somewhere else today, but he's gone on loan. So
mm,
as a player who's on loan, there's less risk, for the deal. If you buy a player, if you're spending £20 million on a player and paying him decent wages, that's a lot of money to pay out. If you're just covering the guy's wages and he's not on such a huge amount of money, and the loan fee is what, maybe million and a half, something like that, it's a lot less risk than the permanent transfer with the bigger wages. So you can lower the bar in terms of what's acceptable on a medical or not.
yeah, and some good contracting practices. You don't play so many games, you pay a whole lot less, so get a refund.
Yeah.
Um, those things could work out. Mm. His parent club handles the rehab, etc. So
Hmm.
that could work. I don't know. Yeah. So shall we move on to the upcoming game since I think we've covered everything else.
Well, we covered who had the best transfer window. Who's had the worst transfer window, in your opinion?
Ooh. Uh, Liverpool haven't bought anybody except Chiesa, am I right?
They got Chiesa and they got a goalkeeper for next season. That's it.
Yeah.
And
So that's
they
not much
really
to
need
go.
a number six.
Yeah, I think so. They're a bit short.
They're a
Good
bit short,
window. I
yeah.
think West Ham had a good window. West Ham had a
West
good
Ham done a
window,
lot.
but
West Ham did a lot of business. Um, yeah.
I
They've
don't like the
they've
striker they got. But overall they're stronger, I think.
yeah.
Um,
They're not
yeah,
in any risk of going down this season. Let's put it that way.
Everton, I don't think they've done too much.
They signed a player from Belgium today, Odumwele, I think his name is, from Anderlecht, I think. So they signed a player today, but they need more. They really need more because they're in serious trouble. Talking of Everton, Dele Alli looks like he might be going to Lille instead of going to Everton. I thought he was going to be signing up there.
Um, Billy Gilmore has gone to Napoli from Brighton.
Has he gone?
With
I thought that
yeah,
wasn't happening because of O'Brien's injury.
yeah, I was going to say it looked like he wouldn't go. Maybe they've seen injury is not too bad because it looked like he's going to Napoli. I just saw it
Hmm.
on X before we joined up here. So,
Okay.
uh,
Billy
can't,
Gilmore's a
what about the
really good
clubs at the
player.
bottom? Yeah, he's a decent player, definitely.
Yeah.
He looked really good
I
in
thought
that
he was. I thought he
game.
was excellent against Manchester United.
Yeah, he did really well. Um, I can't really think of too many offhand. Fulham, they are
Fulham
not.
haven't done a lot. They lost a few players on free transfers over the summer. They've spent a bit of money, but they've not done anything outstanding.
Yeah,
Arsenal have only brought in two players, but they brought in two good quality players. One of them is already injured. Apparently, he
yeah,
fractured a bone in a training ground incident, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. So
yeah, and
not
well, they've got
Calafiori, the
Timber
other
back,
guy.
right?
Yeah, they
Yeah, and
got
they've
Timber
got
back
Timber
from
back.
injury as well, who will be like a new signing. You got to get the obligatory new signing in there.
Is Marino the one that's injured? Is he a forward?
Marino, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so he's out. He's out for a few weeks.
Uh,
Apparently,
so I wonder
he went up.
if they're going for Tony or somebody like that, just a stopgap because it looks like they're quite short up front.
Hmm. Yeah, Brentford
Uh,
signed a new striker to fill in for Tony because it looked like Tony was going. Then that new striker's got injured. They've signed another Brazilian winger, I believe. Um,
yes.
and I saw somebody else has left today. Frankie something, who's left today, but he's a midfielder. I don't think that's going to be a major issue for them. I think Brentford may struggle this year, but I think it's a good year to not be a fantastically strong side in the Premier League because I think there are some
I
weak
agree with
teams.
you. I was going to say the same thing. I think they would. They're going to struggle, but they'll survive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Southampton are in trouble. Um, don't know about
Southampton in
Leicester,
trouble.
Ipswich. Yeah, it
Southampton are in
might
big
be.
trouble.
It might be that the three that came up go straight back down.
I think it probably will be. Ipswich are probably the ones I'm most interested in seeing. Got they've managed to retain their manager for a start, which is where Leicester have fallen. I think. I don't think Steve Evans is a good choice for Leicester. But yeah, they've kept Kieran McKenna, ex Spurs player, of course, ex Spurs coach, Kieran McKenna, and I've got a feeling they're going to try and play some good football this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of that. I've not seen enough of them up until now. I've seen little bits from the first couple of games, and I want to see more because I think they could be really interesting. But
No.
Southampton, I think they're just not strong enough. They don't have the players to make it work.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be one of those seasons for the promoted teams.
Hmm. I think
Mm.
Chelsea may have problems this year in terms of the size of their squad, and they're going to have a lot of unhappy players. We've got a small squad, so apparently there's an article written like by the Athletic that's talked about squad building for the Premier League, and one is you have fairly big squad where you have two players for every position, and that's a sensible and standard way of doing it. And then the other one is you have a tight knit squad where you can build a real sense of camaraderie, but you have to have flexible players within there, which is where we are. You know, we need players that are flexible that can play multiple positions. So we've got players that can play on the right and the left, and potentially up front as well, or even sometimes through central midfield. Um, we are in that second group, but Chelsea have the largest of large squads, and they've got to sell players, and they've got players who are not going to be going out today. Sterling might be going to Arsenal, by the way. Not
No.
quite sure if that works in his benefit, but he gets on well with Mikel Arteta. They're good friends. So he'll probably get some minutes. But they've got more than that. They've got to get rid of players. They've got to get players out the door. Otherwise, they've got such a huge squad, and they're going to have so many unhappy players that places can become really toxic really quick.
It doesn't feel like we have a small squad, though. We do, but it doesn't feel
Mm.
like it. Maybe that's a good sign.
If you look at
No.
our European registration, it looks somewhat bloated in terms of our non-homegrown players. But you start to do the breakdown. It's actually a fairly small squad. I think we just about make the numbers we need to. It's not big, so it's an interesting thing to break down. I put it up on Twitter. If anybody else wants to go and have a look, go to Twitter, do a search for my stuff, and yeah, see what you think. Let me know your thoughts. But yeah, it's easier for us to get our Premier League squad organised than it is to get our Europa League squad, because we're going to have to leave, either promote players who are under 21, so would normally be on our B squad, promote those into the A list to take up the homegrown spots, or we just leave spaces in the squad. But there's five players I think that just can't make it. We cannot put 5 players in the Europa squad, so we've got to leave out players like Forster. We've got to be careful on who we
So
bring
the
in.
homegrown rules are so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've got Foster and Davies probably won't make the squad, I think. So
I'm
yeah.
not sure Spence is going to make the squad. When I looked at it, Spence was high on my list of players that I'd probably drop, because we've got Gray that can play centre back and can play right back and play midfield. So you drop him. I don't think I even included Werner. I don't think I put Timo Werner in there, because we've got so many players that can play out wide. The other issue, of course, is you've got players like Lancashire, who probably should get some minutes in the Europa League this year, and players like Mikey Moore, who deserve a space, but they don't actually qualify yet, because you need to have for List B anyway, because you need to have 3 years under contract between the ages of 15 and 21 to qualify. Now, Lancashire's only been with us 2 years, and Mikey Moore's only 17 years old, so he doesn't qualify until next year.
Yeah, he just signed his
starts
first
at 15. So so he can't go on List B at the moment. So if we want to play him, he has to have a spot in the A list, and the A list spot is quite difficult.
That tells me that we're prioritizing the league and not the Europa League.
That's my thing. I think if we were prioritising the Europa League, we'd be looking at bringing back people like Dennis Serkin, Carl Walker-Peters, Marcus Edwards, people like that.
Yeah.
I think if you really want to make a go of it in the Europa League, you've got to make that kind of move, and we haven't even seemingly taken a sniff at that. So yeah, I don't see the Europa League being a major consideration for us. I think we'll make do with the squad we've got, the people that we can register, and we'll go for it from there. But it's not a huge thing for us.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sadly, because I'd love for us to win the Europa League.
Yeah, it would be nice to win a European competition again. The other thing is, we're going to have this problem for a couple more years, at least, because Bergvall and Gray don't qualify as homegrown at club until they're 21. So there's 3 years there. We got another year for Mikey Moore, another year for Lancashire, if they're going to make it as big players at the club. So we've still got spots. We've still got players who aren't going to qualify in these positions we need them to for a couple more years. So if we make Champions League next year, we're going to hit the same kind of barriers.
Yeah.
Right, time for a quick check, see if anything's happening. Arsenal talks to sign Sterling. Brentford accept offer. Ugarte has joined for 42 million, and McTominay has gone to Napoli. I think we knew that was happening anyway. Southampton signed Arsenal goalkeeper Ramsdale. Let's quickly talk about that. Why has Ramsdale gone to Southampton?
Minutes, right? He needs minutes.
He needs minutes, but surely there were clubs that were more likely to stay up, that were willing to give him those those kind of mitts. He's a good goalkeeper. I think he's a solid goalkeeper. He's a good Premier League goalkeeper. Maybe he's
Yeah.
just bored of not getting relegated every season. But you look at his
Yeah.
record before he joined Arsenal. It was join club, get
Yeah.
relegated, join club, get relegated, join Arsenal, stay up. So I think he just
Yeah.
wants to get that. He loves those parachute payments. That's what it is. That man loves a parachute payment. So,
Where would he go if it wasn't Southampton?
oh, where could it? Well, who's just signed Sam Johnston? Wolves. I'm sure Wolves would have taken him.
Yeah, I think so.
Fulham. Fulham. I'm sure he'd be a step up from their goalkeeper. Newcastle probably. He's English. It would help them. So
Yeah.
Newcastle has struggled to attract players. So I think those three clubs at least. But choosing Southampton, I just like, I don't get it. It just blows my mind that you would go from Arsenal to Southampton, where you're probably going to get relegated. Maybe just
Yeah.
once a year, guaranteed football. It's like last year was a quiet year for me. I want to play every single game, and if I have a good season or an average season, I'll get picked up by a Premier League club the following year, and we can just continue to push on from there. He just wants a year where he's guaranteed football. Maybe it's as simple as that.
I think so. I think that's exactly right.
Okay. Right. Okay. Let's move on. Newcastle. How are you feeling?
Never good considering what's happened in
Never
the last
good.
few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
We owe them though.
Are we over?
We owe them.
Certainly after the last two visits up there, because it's brought 6-1 and 4-0 the last two, I think.
Yeah.
It's
We
not been
smashed them
good.
at our place and then fell to
Yeah.
pieces over it.
Yeah.
I don't like
But
our chances, to be honest with you. I would have felt much more confident if we had um, Solanke or Richarlison fit.
yeah. No, yeah,
And
I agree with you on that. But
mm,
this is not a. I don't know. I look at the Newcastle side and I go, who is there to really be afraid of? They got Isaac. Isaac is a fantastic player. Gordon is good on his day, but a little bit inconsistent. Who after that? They've got that. They've got the Italian midfielder who's just come back from the betting ban. He's good. He's a very, very good player. But beyond, is he
Tonali.
going to score a lot of goals? Yeah, Tonali. Is he going to score a lot of goals? I don't think so.
You're missing one.
So there's someone, isn't there? There's someone I'm missing.
Guimaraes. Bruno.
Yeah, Guimaraes.
Bruno
Yeah,
Guimaraes.
that's true.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
Guimaraes. Yeah.
who's
I'd
got
take him over
really good stats this
any
season in
farmer
terms of
proven.
yeah. He's a very good player. But you look at our squad and you go, yeah, we potentially should actually be winning this game because they are not in good form. They're not. They've not started the season well, and they frankly got lucky against Bournemouth. They should have lost that game. So why shouldn't we go in there feeling a little bit buoyant and a little bit optimistic about having our chances? I can tell you why. Because it's Newcastle and because it's Spurs and because we know how bad Spurs can be against Newcastle. We've seen it. We felt it. We really don't want it to happen again.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There's no reason if you look at it logically, but given what's happened in the past. Yeah, but you think about that, and I'm sure Andrew's been in the air about the exact same thing.
Yeah,
So who
no,
knows?
I think he's got some thoughts in mind for that dressing room speech. There'll be some words spoken, and it would be nice to know what they are. We'll never hear them because it won't ever be recorded, or there might be some leaks, but probably not. He's a guy who speaks well. He's a guy who is forthright and outspoken, and he will have some words for these players before they go out there and let them know just how important it is that we don't let the same kind of result happen, because last year was embarrassing. Last year was
Yeah, I think
really embarrassing.
also it's really early in the season. However, you have an opportunity with these two games coming up to make a
Mm.
real improvement on last season anyway. And any points garnered from these two matches is more points than we got from it last year. So
Yeah. The Arsenal game afterwards, I think these two games are the barometer of where we are for the season. We've played two sides who could well get relegated. Everton were not good. They were a fairly poor side, and I think they're going to be getting hit with another financial or points, some points deduction, which may be difficult for them. It may just be a season too far for them. Leicester, they're in trouble from the start because I don't think they're strong enough either. So
and they've got
we could have done
CSR
better
as
against.
well.
Yeah, we should have done better against Leicester. We did well against Everton, but let's not get carried away. It's games against the tougher teams that are really going to determine where we finish this year, and we've got two tough games coming up. So it's going to be. This is going to be the barometer for me. If we show up well on Sunday, then suddenly things will look a lot better. If we then put in a really good performance against Arsenal, then suddenly we can start to dream a little, start to have some nice thoughts and start to feel better. Because there was a period at the end of last season where you were like, oh, this is starting to drag a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't an
The Arsenal
easy end
game,
to the season.
even though we brought it back to 3-2, it was
Yeah,
embarrassing for that. And
yeah,
if you combine that with the performance against Newcastle, this would be a good test to see not only how we've developed as a team, but mentally
hmm
how we've come along and seeing how we can break these barriers. Um, yeah, you ideally this season you'd like to break mental barriers, Newcastle away,
yeah.
Arsenal, Chelsea, and that would be a sign of really good progress.
And potentially
Yeah,
bringing in newer, younger players like Bergval, like Gray. It's also been done to break the cycle, the worries, the stress that we've had in the past. I mean, we've had Højbjerg at the club, who's been there several years, who's had a few tumultuous years. I mean, he was like a mainstay under Conte. He was one of Mourinho's favourite players. I just don't think he fitted Ange's system. So maybe there was like a little bit of a hangover there in terms of, has this guy got the mental capacity to stand up and act the way that Ange wants him to? Whereas
yeah,
you look at Gray, you look at Bergval, and these are players who seemingly are not just young and vibrant, but they're professional as well. And I am
yeah.
not
There's nothing
slamming
natural
Bergval. I'm not slamming Højbjerg for his professionalism. He was always professional, always. But there's just that element of doubt about his game that made you go, I'm not sure about this player, and I'm not sure if he's going to be the one who can take us over the line. And
Yeah, I agree.
I
There's no
think
mental
someone like,
scarring with the new places,
yeah, exactly.
with the new
You
faces.
bring in
Yeah,
young players, no mental scarring there, and they're young, they've got this sense of bravado, this sense of we can go and do anything, and just go out there and show it, boys. Let's see what you can do. And of all of them, Bergval is the one I want to see do that, because I watch him and I go, wow, what a player he is.
so how do you see us lining up or approaching the game?
It's different in how I see it happening and how I think it's gonna. I mean, what do I want to see, or what do I think is going to be put out? What do you want? What do you want to hear from me?
Both. Let's go one at a time. Let's see. What do you think is going to be put out there first?
I think it would be exactly the same team as went out against Leicester.
Mm.
So I don't think there'll be any changes
Away from
whatsoever.
home.
I think Kulusevski will be in midfield, Odebel on the left, Son through the middle, Johnson on the right, Maddison, Basuma. And then, of course, the back
Okay.
five, which is going to be exactly the same for both, because that's our back five for the season, as far as I'm concerned. Unless you're chopping and changing for cups or Europe, that's our back. That is our first choice back defence, back four, and goalkeeper.
I think
Um,
personally, I think you'd see one of Bentancur or Star back in for Madison.
yeah, or for Maddison.
Mm.
Madison's had a good start to the season. I think we're going to see a repeat of what happened last year with Maddison. Start of the season, he'd play 60, 65, maybe 70 minutes, and then Postecoglou would bring him off. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot of for these opening games of the season. The only time I can remember him playing 90 minutes was when he had to, because everybody else was taken. All the spots had been taken. He was
I just think
regularly
playing
subbed off.
away from home against a team with a little bit more in attack on the break than we've had to face so far. That,
Okay,
I
interesting.
think he might want a little bit of running power, a little bit of more cover. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I think would happen. But what I'd
What would
like
you
to see
like
happen,
to happen? Let's talk likes.
um, I would like him to do the same team. So I'm
Okay.
exactly the opposite to you.
Because I'm a little bit different. My defense stays the same. Um,
Mm.
I think Basuma stays.
Yeah,
Kulusevski
I think he has.
goes to false nine for me. Kulusevski goes through the centre. We play Son on the left. We play Odubel on the right. Johnson goes to the bench. And then you've got two more spots. Madison gets one of them for me. And then the last one is the difficult one. Do we play the more attritional game, or do we try and have someone that's going to be a little bit more creative with the passing? I would like to see Bentancur start that game. I would like to see
That's not a
Bentancur
bad
start in a
option.
slightly more advanced position instead of playing in the six. See him linking up nicely with Madison and Bissouma, and I think just playing Kulusevski through the centre with his little tricks, his little flicks, his ability on the ball, and his ability to bring other players in, I think he's going to make a massive difference, and we'll see the best of Sonny that way. And I think getting a win from this game will involve getting the best out of our captain.
Yeah, look, I do think Johnson needs a bit of a break. So that could work. It'd give you an option of keeping Kulusevski inside and getting Son to a wing.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a good shot.
I
So
just
yeah,
think
let's see.
I think Johnson is like the perfect super sub. He seems to pick up the game well when he comes on. He's not someone who needs 10 minutes to adapt. He comes on, he picks up the speed of the game. And I think that's because he's an intelligent guy. There are certain players who manage to do that, and others who need to come on and play for 10 to 15 minutes before they get the feel to the game. But Johnson, I think, can come on and just make that difference pretty much straight away. And with his pace, with his energy, I'd like to see him come on against tiring legs. So for me, drop him to the sub, but he's an important substitute. And you let him know you are an important player to us. You've got a chance of making a difference when you come on. And because he was
Yeah,
involved in Basuma's goal against Leicester, he was involved in
yeah,
that
he was.
first one. He was causing
Yes, of course.
havoc in their defence, which moved everybody around, which gave us the space to score that first goal.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess we've like we said, when you have so many options, it's hard
Hmm.
to really put your finger on what it's going to be. I think, we can guess the back five quite easily. Probably Bazuma. We know Sonny is going to play. And
Yeah.
then after that, it's all up for grabs, is it?
Well, I think we know Kulusevski's going to play. It's just where. Where is Kulusevski going to play? So, but with Richarlison out, why, why Richarlison? How? How is this man injured again? He's only just come back from injury. It's.
Yeah.
I like him. I have a lot of sympathy for the stuff he's gone through. Um, you know, I really admire the fact that he's stepped up and talked about the mental struggle he's had and the mental health issues that he's had, and he's been so open and so forthright about it. But you've got to be fit. If you're not
Yeah.
fit, then you can't show us what you can do. And however much I like you, and however much I like that edge of the dark arts, and I do like the edge of the dark arts. uh, if you're not on the play, if you're not on the pitch, if you're not playing, you're not showing us anything. You're not contributing anything to the club, and it's almost better to have a lesser player who's fit and available to come in and do something.
And I think it was quite telling in Ange's press conference today that
Mm.
he said the players probably very frustrated, as are
Yeah,
we. And
I'm
I
sure
mean,
he
that
is. I'm
tells
sure
you.
he's really annoyed.
It was the
But
as
I
are
don't
we.
remember having these issues at Watford or Everton. It just seems to be a Spurs thing since he came back,
It's
since he joined
as
us.
are we. That's telling.
Mm.
He's also running out of patience with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. Okay, prediction for the weekend.
Oh, don't. Oh, I don't know, man. It's so hard. Um, if I was a betting man, which I once was, which I'm no longer, um, I would be saying both teams to score. But if you're pushing me for a result, the Spurs side of me goes, we've got enough about us to win this 2-1. The realist in me says both sides to score and it's ending a draw.
Yeah, I think that's about right. You stole
Yeah.
my answer. I was gonna say similar.
Ah, I'm sorry.
Okay, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's it. That's you got it on the spot. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Okay.
looking at the squad, looking at what we've got, what would be the one thing that makes the difference for you? One thing that turns this squad from being a decent squad to being a feared team. Is there one position that we could massively upgrade and make that difference?
Uh, it's hard to to say that because if you look at the positions that we really need, we're talking
Mm.
about cover positions, you know.
Yeah.
So I think somebody that could do what Basuma does, but is consistent and a bit of a leader
Yeah, that's
would
my
make
thoughts. That number
the
six position.
yeah, that would be like the big step up, I think. Um,
Yeah,
but there's not many
I
people
know.
out there
There's only one Rodri, but if we could get a
make that
Rodri, and if we could get a player like that, then this would be a squad that could really push on, and we could be
yeah,
talking. I don't know whether it's too much to be talking about challenging for the title, but with fair weather and a good wind behind you, that's a possibility. I mean, we were not start of last season. We looked world beaters. It then dropped
yeah.
off quite considerably, but we looked really good for a considerable period of time. And
Well, two things happened
can we
then.
do that again?
People people figured us out, and we tried to put square pegs in round holes.
Yeah,
And then maybe, and I don't know which came first, but maybe they were able to negate the system because the players in there that were filling in didn't have the same skill set, or
yeah,
uh, yeah, and then you lose confidence. So there's lots of different things. But I think like we did it for 11 games last season or 10 games,
yeah,
and you should be like, okay, let's see if we can go a lot longer um, this season. Yeah. So I guess you know that's what we're hoping for. Uh,
yeah. There was somebody on X earlier this
something's gonna
week
happen.
saying that we we became predictable in our play, and because of that, Bissouma became more cautious. I think when Bissouma became more cautious, we became predictable in our play. I think I would switch it round. I'd say that you know the cause of our caution was the fact that Bissouma wasn't taking those risks. So that's
Yeah, I
my
think so.
concern.
I think yeah, when he lost confidence and it's just one player in one key position,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it can cause a ripple effect. So he's happy with the squad with having more options, and maybe that means we can sustain things a bit longer. We have like for like, and that could be a big thing.
Okay, some news here. I don't know if you follow him. I'm on X. Sasha Tavolieri seems pretty on the button with his news. He's saying it's over. Victor Osimhen won't join Chelsea. He stays at Napoli. That's
Wow,
big news.
that's good news.
That's
Yeah,
big news. Billy Gilmore has joined Napoli.
here you
So
go.
okay,
Yeah,
somebody will be feeding the bullets for Osimhen to score. Um, that's about it. It's a quiet night. I don't think there's going to be a lot happening tonight. I think we will
Sancho
be.
has joined Chelsea.
He's joined. There's. I'm
Yeah.
seeing there's a lot of talk, but I'm not seeing it's happened yet. Let's see.
Here we go,
Uh,
Fabrizio Romano. Loan deal with
Fabrizio's
obligation to
giving it the here
buy.
we go.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I think that's if we see any late moves, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a case of loan with options or loans without
yeah,
options because it's that point. We've got to that stage of the window now where it's too late to sort out the large chunk stuff, like purchasing a player and how it's going to be done. Um, so I think it's now going to come down to loans with options to buy, or it's the final details on contracts they've been working on for the last few days to weeks.
yeah. I agree.
I think that's where we are.
I see. Perisic has gone to Como. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, he's had a bit of a falling out at Hajduk Split by the sound of it,
Yeah,
and because he was effectively joined them on a free and they were paying him almost nothing, he had the ability to leave for on a free as well and earn some decent money. So good luck to him. Don't think he'd be in our squad if he was still with us, but I like the player. I thought he did a good
yeah,
job for us when he was here.
yeah. When he was good, he was very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
let's see what happens. Okay, Ugarte is at Man United.
yeah. You got to sign to
Uh,
Man U.
yeah. So that's done. That's a good player
They've
too.
also signed. I think his name's Kone, a guy from a young midfielder who's joined them or will be joining them soon. He's signed up and has either joined them or has agreed to, and it's in the final steps. But he's one for the future. He's not likely to show up in the first team this year.
Here's some Romano's got Tony to Al Ahly. Final docs being done.
Mm-hmm.
Sterling and Arsenal deal at final stages. And medical ongoing for James Ward-Prowse at Nottingham Forest. That's a surprising one.
I heard that was done.
Yeah.
I heard that was done. I'm
Wow.
surprised by that one because I think he's an awesome player. Even if you only keep him in your squad for corners and free kicks, and he's not
Yeah,
bad
if
in
he's
midfield
got
either.
goals and assists. Goals and
Yeah,
assists. What more can you ask for?
yeah, exactly.
Uh, yeah, that's about it. Yeah. Arsenal signed Neto on loan from Bournemouth. Is he a keeper? I think so, isn't it?
He's a keeper, 35-year-old Brazilian keeper from Bournemouth. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the deal
Tammy
for
Abraham.
Juan Garcia has fallen through.
Yeah. And Tammy Abraham has gone to Milan from Roma. AC.
Ah, that's the one I saw. That's what I saw. Didn't recognise the player. Okay. Yeah, there
Yeah,
was talk
that's
of him
it.
coming back to the UK, but he had a cruciate ligament injury last year, which I think has
Oof.
put a lot of people on edge as to whether or not they should bring him in. So
Yeah,
I think people
interesting
were
one.
just holding back and taking the chances. There's a for people that are interested. Not everyone will be. It's probably more of a fringe geek thing. I'm a bit of a geek. There was a business podcast. Let's see if I can quickly get the name for everyone. Um, it's like the business of football, something like that. The
Yeah, I've
business
seen
of
it. Yeah,
sport. Yeah,
very
there
good.
was a really good episode, which I've been listening to, for one of the guys at Charlton and who'd been at Sunderland, and really, really good. Charlie Methven, co-owner at Charlton Athletic, and he was saying that he thinks there's going to be a downturn in the market because of the FSP requirements. So he thinks that some of these the number of big deals we see are going to slow and drop off. And if he's right, that potentially explains why Daniel Levy may be being cautious in the market instead of dropping big money on a player to be a substitute effectively, because he thinks in a year's time the market will have dipped and he can pick up the same player for cheaper then.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I've seen something else interesting here. Odds on Edouard has gone to Leicester
Yes,
from
yeah.
Palace.
And Nketiah's going to Crystal Palace by the sound of it.
Wow. Sure.
So Eddie Nketiah's
Well,
going to, yeah.
that's a pretty, yeah, it's picked up a bit.
And Reece
But
Nelson's gone somewhere as well this evening, I think.
yeah, he's going on loan somewhere.
Yeah.
Ipswich.
And
I think so.
one of our goalkeepers went to Leyton Orient today, on loan.
Yeah,
One of our young
the
guys.
Irish lad, Josh Keane.
Yeah, Josh Keeley. Yeah, and Gunter. I don't know if you're watching the under-21 match earlier.
No.
Luca Gunter made some outstanding saves. Looked really,
Oh yeah,
really good.
he was very promising. He also was
Yeah,
quite comfortable on the ball, decent across it. So yeah,
we've got
but
some good young players coming through. It's just going to be a case of how many can come through, really. I mean, how many good goalkeepers can you have come through at the same time? Somebody's going to have to move on elsewhere. Not You
yeah, it's
can't
going to
keep
be
everyone and keep them all happy.
which ones are going
Yeah.
to be world beaters and which tier, which ones are going to be
Let's
just
hope one
good
is.
players.
We just want one world-beating goalkeeper. Thank you very much.
And we're gonna
He
hope
will be fine,
that's the
thanks.
one we choose, and
Yeah,
we're gonna hope
exactly.
we choose him, before it goes. But I
Yeah,
think that's it for me today. Pretty late
yeah.
over
I
here.
think we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a bit late here. It's ticking along, and as I said, I don't think there's much more is going to happen. Certainly on the Spurs end. So thank you very much for joining me, eh? We will
Thank
call it an end there. Thank you everyone for joining us. We've had a few people jumping in. For everybody else, hopefully you'll be joining us next time. We will be going live. I'm trying to go live on Facebook as well. We'll see how that goes. But next time we will be broadcasting, which will be on Monday at 8 p.m. UK time to talk about that Newcastle game. Thanks, everyone. Speak soon.
Cheers.
And come on, you
Bye.
Spurs.